The dust is still settling from another early departure, if you like, for the Germans. The Germans crashing out at the group stages for the second World Cup in succession, losing to Japan and finishing behind Spain on goal difference. And now change has been effected because Oliver Bierhoff has resigned as the head of the federation. Bierhoff has now left his role, which included his roles with the national team and the German academy. Let's head back to Qatar, because still out there, the Germans aren't there, but he is. German football expert Raphael Honigstein joins us live. Raph, hi to you.
Hi, last German standing. Not for much longer.
Well done to you, Raph, the last German
Thank
standing.
you.
Did you think going into Qatar 2022, Raph, that it would unravel in the way it has for the Germans?
No, of course not. I think it was very hard to see that happening. This was not a bad team. This is not, like 20 years ago where we genuinely didn't have any good players. This is a team full of Champions League winners, captain of Manchester City. These are really serious pros, but they really messed up the first game. And it showed you that in a tournament, if you have 20 bad minutes, that can be enough. So hopefully a lesson for future tournaments. But no, I didn't foresee that at all.
There was always going to be a fall guy. It appears that Oliver Bierhoff at the top of the federation is that man. Should Hansi Flick, the coach, think himself lucky? Is it right and proper that he survives?
We don't know yet if he survives, because he has to go into the FA tomorrow and report on his own failings. And it's by no means guaranteed that he will stay on. I think the feeling is that he will probably get another chance, having been in the job for only a year or so, but he is under pressure to explain how it went so wrong, and B, of course, to perform much better at the Euros. But Bierhoff, as you said, he was the fall guy. He's been there for 18 years. He oversaw a lot of really good stuff, reforms. He was there when Germany won the World Cup. He was there when they had all these good tournaments alongside Joachim Löw, but the last three were all bad. And I guess it was a case of people baying a little bit for blood. They needed someone to take the hit, to put the head on the chopping block. And even though I think with this particular World Cup, he probably wasn't to blame at all for what happened here, he was seen as sort of part of the bigger malaise, and that's why he didn't have any backing anymore.
Obviously, you've got the 2024 Euros coming up, and clearly you're going to want to be in far better condition than you were for this World Cup. Going back to Hansi Flick, if he is kept in situ, do you think he can consider himself lucky? Because, as you said at the top of the show, or the top of this piece, you've got a group of players that are far better than the players you had 20 years ago when you were going through the doldrums and you needed to recover yourselves. Ultimately, the tournament itself wasn't affected by Oliver Bierhoff. The players themselves and the coach are complicit in the failings. Do you think he will be given that opportunity, or and if he is, do you think he's fortunate to be given the opportunity to carry on to try and build a team that's capable of competing in a home tournament?
Yes, I think he is fortunate, and but I do think he will get that second chance, because this is a situation where the players like him, where they think he is the right coach. And I think the bigger issue, I'm not sure how open he can be and wants to be with the federation, but you look at the problems in some key positions, certainly in the centre-back and full-backs, where maybe the tactics were a little bit too attacking, considering that we don't have the individual class. At BeIN, he played a similar system. He won the Champions League, but at BeIN, you had a back forward, Upamecano and Lucas Hernandez and Alphonso Davies and Benjamin Pavard, World Cup winners, Champions League winners already. This is very different with Niklas Süle and Thilo Kehrer and these guys. So I think that in the end, he will get criticized. He will have to learn some harsh lessons from his own mistakes. He did make mistakes, undoubtedly, but they will probably decide that he should get another crack at it at the Euros. But then, we thought this World Cup is going to be sort of a warm-up tournament for him, for Germany to be in a position to be really in contention for the Euros. Now, all of a sudden, the Euros have become this absolute, hugely pressurized make-or-break tournament for him. So anything but, let's say, falling short of a semi-final will probably then be not enough for him to stay. So even if he does stay, the stakes have raised a lot now because of the failure at the World Cup.
What was the reaction in your country? A lot was made in certain press about the German players' attitude and putting their hands over their mouths. Arsene Wenger made a very pointed observation yesterday about teams not being prepared because they were too motivated by other agendas or other messages they want to impart. What's been the reaction in your country towards your players' position that they took and the way they demonstrated it?
Yeah, so the funny thing is that the reaction in Germany was mostly negative, but not because they did it, but because it was seen as not enough. People wanted Germany to take a much stronger stand, wear the armband and tell FIFA, you know what, you punish us, whatever. People were putting huge pressure on the team and the federation to not cave in. And when they did, they were criticized for it. And when the players did that gesture, there was a lot of international reaction. I'm talking about in the Western world saying this is a good thing. FIFA is being shown, we're standing up for rights. In Germany, people are saying this is not enough. So this just showed you, I think, in a wider sense, that whatever you did, you couldn't really win unless you stayed completely silent and then get your criticism before and after, but maybe not during the tournament. I think Wenger sings from FIFA's hymn sheet. They're paying him, so I think we have to take his opinion with a massive degree of salt. Especially because it doesn't really add up when you look at how the Australians have fared or the Swiss, for example. A lot of teams were planning similar protests. But what is true, and where this cannot be dismissed, is that the team itself felt under pressure to do something. And this all happened at the eve of the game. And even if it was just a couple of percentage points, they were lost because players were a little bit in disagreement of how they should do it, what they should do it. It didn't help. Now, if you cast your mind back to the Japan game, for 70 minutes, nobody talked about that because Germany were absolutely battering Japan. So if Wenger's analysis is right, then only after 70 minutes they realized or they remembered that they had the gesture before. Yeah. And that's when things went wrong. So I'm not buying it as an explanation.
So, Raf, just to finish with, how long is it going to take for Germany to stabilise the ship and be back at the top of international football?
It shouldn't take too long because the ingredients are there. Yes, we have problems at the back. Another really good centre-back would definitely make a difference. Or you have to find a slightly more defensive setup. If you have no good defenders, then protect your defence more, play a bit more pragmatic. That, I think, is the lesson. Look at how France have won the World Cup. Look at how France are playing. Even Brazil. Yes, they destroyed South Korea last night, but they are not an all-out gung-ho attack team. They have 4 really strong centre-backs and a strong defensive midfield. I think that is the biggest lesson that Germany have to learn. You cannot play like Bayern Munich and try to press teams and score 5 or 6, 7 goals and don't really care because if you concede 2, that's fine. You have to be a lot more realistic and pragmatic. And I think if Flick takes that lesson on board, then we have a good chance of being very, very competitive in 2024.
Thanks for joining us. You're still out there. Give me one name. Who wins it?
I've picked France before the tournament, and I'm sticking with them.